Hi, my name is Carol Blanchette, and I'm a coastal marine ecologist here at UC Santa Barbara. And I study coastal ecosystems because they're some of the most productive places on Earth. And so this article is really interesting for a number of reasons. One, importantly, is actually what they're studying. And the second is really how they've chosen to do this study. So the first thing about what they're studying is the distribution of kelp throughout the world. And we know a lot about the coastal marine ecosystems here in California. We've done a lot of work looking at kelp forests and the biodiversity that they support. And the idea is that kelp is kind of like a tree in a forest. So you think about rainforests and how diverse those ecosystems are. We really have the same thing happening underwater, where kelp is kind of like the tree of the rainforest. And so without the kelp, really we don't get the same levels of biodiversity. And importantly, for people that use coastal ecosystems for recreation and food, that's really important. So we want to have productive, healthy marine ecosystems with lots of fish, lots of invertebrates, and things that people like to either eat or see in the kelp forest. And so one of the ideas is if we can actually measure how much kelp is in the ocean, we have a pretty good sense that that's very correlated with biodiversity. And people have really looked at this on the coast of California, but over a relatively short period of time. So we don't have a great baseline of information about the distribution of kelp, even in California, which is a very well-studied place. But the distribution of kelp throughout the world is something we know very little about. So there's parts of the world that no one has actually looked at. And so the really exciting thing about this study, I think, is that the researchers here have chosen to look at this question about how has kelp changed throughout time, throughout the world. And they've chosen to do that in a really interesting way. And so it would take a really long time if they were to sort through every single image from satellites that travel the world. They would probably be sitting at their desk looking at images for the next 5 years. So they've taken a really creative approach to doing this, which is they've partnered with a citizen science website. And the reason that they've done this is they've realized, I think, importantly, that they couldn't accomplish this task on their own. And also, I think there's a lot of interest right now in getting people from every walk of life, all kinds of people, students as well as adults, to participate in scientific research. And that has a lot of benefits for, I think, both the people that are involved in the studies. So they're learning a lot about kelp, they're learning a lot about coastal marine ecosystems, and they're exploring. And I think that's one really great thing about involving people in this kind of work, is it's really about exploration. So virtually they're being led to corners of the earth to look at these images, places where no one's ever gone before. And so exploration in and of itself is exciting. There's never a boring day doing that. And then furthermore, the authors here are able to use that information that people are gathering about how much kelp is there in each one of these images to study the distribution of kelp through time and through space. And they're accumulating a huge data set. And then also I think this is really important because they're contributing a lot of knowledge here to how we can use citizen scientists to accomplish these really big tasks in science that we couldn't do without that level of manpower, essentially. And so by taking probably some of these images, they could build a very robust model for what the error rates look like when you do this, and how we can actually use the power of people throughout the world and the internet to accomplish goals that we've never been able to do before. And so I think those are really exciting fronts to move forward, and I think the authors here have taken a really creative approach to addressing a really interesting problem.